Hi and welcome to my first writing vlog. My name is Hanne and I'm making a graphic novel. This is the premise I've been able to come up with so far. We'll see if it changes as I keep writing and developing the story and learning how to write a good log line. A small group of superheroes confronts the most influential family in the world when they start a program created to deceive the citizens to steal their energy with their consent. So what am I doing right now and what am I going to be working on during this vlog? I am writing the first draft of the novel, that is just text. My goal right now is to get the whole story out, preferably in order. It's not going really well in that sense, but that's not really a problem because I can organize everything once I get to the zero draft, which is the next version. I don't know if this makes much sense, but those are the names that I'm giving to the drafts instead of starting with the first draft, the second, and so on. My goal right now is to tell the whole story, and I'm also tracking the word count while I do that. It's fun on the one hand. It informs me about how many words I need to get to know what exactly happens in the story. It helps me keep on track with this work, because having the goal to put the whole story into this document makes me keep writing in there, even though I sometimes get sidetracked and start writing about problems that I'm having with the story and how I could solve that instead of actually writing the story. Even though I do that, I'm still motivated because I see the word count go up. I have told myself that every word counts, even if I'm just going off the rails with philosophies and thoughts that I'm having and not really knowing what is going to happen next. But everything counts because it's all work that needs to happen for me to reach my goal of finding out what the story is. I didn't really know what I would need to do before I start drawing the first draft of what the final pages are going to be. But as I started writing notes about ideas that I had for the story, I realized that I would need to tell the whole story to myself first before I start even working on the scenes. If I read a novel and then started telling somebody else in detail what is happening in that book, what would that look like? I don't need to use any sort of polished language. I don't need to make any reader feel anything with my words. What I need to do is put on the page what is happening and why. And the why is very important because it tells me everything about the characters' motivations, goals, what they are feeling. And so it's not subtle, it's really explicit because it's not meant to be read like that, right? And so that's what I'm doing. I started a draft as if I was going to write just a novel, not a comic. I've called it the bad zero draft because I felt like that's what I needed to do to just let the words flow. And I'm describing everything that I realize about the story as it comes to me, trying to find out everything that I need to know from the start of the story to the end. Right now, I am at 85,000 words. This last week has been really good because I have reached several milestones one after the other. One of the most important ones was that I finally, all my plots, meaning the plot and the subplots, have come to life. I know what they are. I know how they should develop. I haven't fully written the key moments out yet. I'm working on it, but I'm confident because since I now understand on a deep level what they are and why, I know I can easily find out what these key points are supposed to be because I know what they are about. And so I'm really happy about that because I was having a lot of difficulties developing this story. In fact, I've been working on this for a full year already. For the first 6 months, if not more, I was constantly thinking, oh, next weekend, surely I will finally realize what the whole story is supposed to be, and it will all go much faster and I will see everything clearly, and that kept not happening. In the summer and after, I changed directions and I said I have to make a draft. Even if I don't know what is going to come out, I really didn't feel like I was going to start writing and everything would be coming out, and it didn't happen. And I've also had to step back several times, and that is, I think, one of the best things that I have done is take a step back and think, okay, so I have all this stuff in my notes now that seems interesting, but it doesn't really connect. Maybe this is crowding my mind right now. I reached 85,000 words. Many of those words are just, can you imagine somebody like this? Why would they do that? And what are they thinking? But this is not something that happens in the story. This is just generally, there are not so many actual scenes in there that move the story forward, not even explanations of what is going to happen next and stuff like that. I haven't looked back at everything that I wrote, but there is a lot of philosophy in there, and what is the thought process of these people, and what is their goal in life, and why are they doing this, and how is everything connected and stuff like that, which is what I had been wanting to get away from. So what this Bad Zero draft contains is scenes and developments that I know happen in the story, but it doesn't contain all of the scenes that I know about by far. When I'm already clear about a scene that is going to happen, I'm like, no, I don't want to write this down. I want to keep thinking about the things that I don't know. Maybe if instead of doing that, I just wrote everything that I do know, maybe the things that I don't know yet would come out more naturally without having to think about them so much. I do have a lot of scene cards or event cards. Some are scenes, some are just in general things that happen that I don't know what the scene is that is going to show that event yet, but I have just written it down so that I know that that is going to happen. I did that I think a few months ago, and I haven't kept up with it. It is just sitting here on the wall. I do plan on getting back to this, probably not this weekend, but at some point I want to visually lay out probably all of the scenes of this story, right? So that I know in what order they happen. I don't know how it's going to go exactly, but what I plan to do for this writing vlog is, today is Friday. I have this weekend to write, and then during the weekdays I only have 1 hour. If I get up at 6 o'clock, then I can write from 6:30 to 7:30. I don't plan to put that into the writing vlog, so it's probably just going to be Saturday and Sunday. What I usually do during the weekends is that I do all the sprints that I can in between all of the chores I have to do around the house. Usually I have been getting in around 3 hours of writing every day of the weekend. The word count varies a lot because even though I'm writing the bad zero draft, I still have several documents because I have one for the outline that I haven't been able to develop, and I have another one for the plot and subplots just to explain very briefly what they are about so that I can always go back to this chart and see a visual representation of what I'm going to write. And then I also, what is it that I do? I have been writing a lot in a document called Awesome Brainstorm. Always when I get stuck in the draft, I go to these documents because I don't want to put too much random stuff, or I don't want to put stuff that very specifically is not about developing the story in the draft. When I am doing exploration writing or discovery writing, I usually put that in another document so that I won't rise the word count too artificially with stuff that won't go into the final draft. This weekend, I still have to finish filling in the chart that I have in the plot and subplots document with all of the major plot points for every plot and subplot, because the plot is already done. And then I think I will get to go back into the zero draft, and I will not erase anything that I have done. I will just keep writing. I have been tempted to pull out all of the things that I've already written that I know will be useful, because they are a few of them that have been inspiring to me and that I know that make a lot of sense with the plot that I have finally come up with. I'm tempted to take those things and put them in order at the end of the document, maybe, so that I can fill in the gaps between them and make it all nice and chronologically ordered. I think it's not worth doing that because I have the next draft where I will paste all of the things that I'm sure that I will use, even if I have to modify parts of it. But I will be able to copy and paste what I want and then organize it, and I don't have to do it in this draft. So that's the plan. I'm going to be updating you tomorrow as I go, or at the end of the day. I don't know yet. So I'll see you then. But before that, I still have something important to do, which is to mark that I reached the 85,000 words goal on the sheet that I prepared to fill in the word count. So I'll show you that, and until tomorrow. Hi, so it's Saturday night, and this is the update of how the day went as far as the writing is concerned. I wasn't at home for part of the afternoon, and that has definitely taken time away from my writing, but I have been able to get in 2 hours in total. Yesterday, before going to bed, I was able to fill in some more of the chart where I have written down the key moments of the plot and the subplots. And this morning, I was able to finish that. What I did was sit down and write first thing in the morning. And this has been working very well for me because the day may get busy, but if I work on my writing first thing after getting up, at least I know that I already wrote for an hour. After finishing the chart this morning, I moved on to my outline document, and now that I have all of the key moments of the plot and subplots written down, I can go ahead and fill in the outline. The difference with the chart that I made earlier is that this outline has a more detailed story structure, I guess you could say. In the chart, I only used 4 moments, while in the outline, I developed that structure a little bit more. I'm still learning about story structure. I'm still not really sure what it's about and how to best use it. But what I have been able to gather is that it's a way to keep the reader's interest. I can more easily see with what I need to fill out the gaps between those moments. I have just finished writing right now, and the last thing I was thinking is, okay, so I have a short outline with the key points, but maybe I want to also make a more detailed outline where all the scenes are included. The reason that I'm making is, and why I think it's useful for me to do it, is because I have this need to see the whole story laid out in front of me before I start writing it. But that doesn't mean that things won't change in the outline once I actually start writing everything out. I still have that flexibility, but it is interesting how the actions of the characters in every moment are going to affect the overall plot in ways that maybe I can't imagine right now. But I still need to keep in mind the general direction and the general events I think have to happen in this story and why they are important. And so I think these outlines will reflect that. So that's the update. But also I'm definitely very motivated now that I feel that I'm able to see much more clearly how I can do this, how I can actually write out the whole story. And I'm very excited to be writing a lot of it. Although right now I'm not increasing the word count in my first draft because I'm working on the outline. But it's also a very important step that I want to take before starting. And I definitely have a lot more hope now for this story to come to life very soon than I had in the weeks prior, I guess the whole last year. And so that's really been a huge relief for me. I always knew that it would come together in some way or other. I always had hope for this project to come together, and even more than hope, I just knew that it would come to life in some way. But it has been rough some weeks to try to work on it because there was so much mental energy required to plot the book and to find out the key pieces that I needed to know. And that may still change, but now I feel like it will be much easier and that words can finally flow out without having to rethink the whole history of humanity just to be able to write this book. I think nothing is wasted. Everything that you do, you find a new piece of something that will give you inspiration at some point. But yes, I'm very glad, I'm very happy about where I'm at right now. I could keep talking all night, but we'll leave it at this for now, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hi. I have to confess it's now Tuesday because I didn't get to record that last clip to close off the vlog video on Sunday, and then yesterday I didn't find the time, and so now I'm doing this today. On Sunday I wrote first thing in the morning for a little while. I think I finished or almost finished the outline, and then most of the day was spent doing stuff around the house that had to be done. And I went back to writing late in the afternoon, much later than I had planned. And I also wasn't really in the mood for much. I hadn't been in a good mood generally that weekend. But what I'm trying to do is, since I can, keep on working on the story regardless of my mood, because the important thing is to focus as much as I can, then things will come out. Sometimes not much comes out in one day that I spend working on it, but other days I'm not really feeling like working on the story, but then I get in the headspace and some really interesting things start coming out. So that's what I'm aiming at, just keep working. And then, because I have noticed that sometimes the biggest moments just happen on random days, it's awesome to see that it gives me a lot of motivation to keep going. Not that any day is not a random day, by the way. I don't really know what day I'm supposed to be finishing something important or getting some very important idea. It's been interesting to see that I think it was last Wednesday or Tuesday, suddenly some things came together and I saw a big jump in the story. It was really great. So in conclusion, what got done this weekend and what am I going to work on next? So this weekend I finished my chart of plot and subplots, which is very important because I needed it to feel like I'm working on something defined, something specific of the story, instead of being all over the place and describing all the different types of events that might happen for the plot to move forward without knowing what exactly that those plots are. The other thing that I got done was the outline, and this is I called it the basic outline. So I think there are many ways you can do an outline. I don't know much about it. I just did it the way that I thought would help me develop the story. I thought about adding a lot more to it, but in the end I decided to just put in the key points, beginning, the middle, climax, and the resolution of that particular plot line, so that I know where we are starting, where we are going, what is the main development of this plot line, and then where we are heading with that plot line, so that I can write to fill out the spaces in between those key events. And then I decided, okay, now I think would be the time where if I keep going with this outlining and plotting thing, it would be too much. I felt like I would maybe be wasting creative energy on something that wouldn't move the story forward as much as just starting to write it. I opened my first draft again and I've already written 85,000 words in it. I knew I already had written a lot of scenes of the beginning of the book. These scenes had details in them that I don't know yet if I want to keep them exactly like that, but the general ideas I think are good. So I started writing. I felt like I needed to start from the beginning to really get into it. So what I did was just describe everything that I had already written in some form or other, just with a sentence or a short paragraph, and then move on. And this is beyond the writing block of this weekend, but I will add it. But then I came to a key scene that is the first mission of the main character. And so this mission I do want to reimagine again, even if it's using details that I've already written about. And by the way, I haven't gone back because 85,000 words is a lot and I have a hard time finding and piecing together all of the parts of those scenes that I already wrote. So I just try to remember as much as I can, and I always have the next draft to really piece it all together, and so I don't worry too much about that. that is where I'm at now. I'm writing this mission, and on Monday and this morning I have been tired and I have only been able to carve out 30 minutes to write. This morning it got me thinking, and during my morning walk, I developed this scene a lot more, and so probably tomorrow morning will be dedicated during the hour that I have to write down what I thought today. And so this is another way, even if I can only write for 30 minutes, the story is constantly alive, and sometimes I come up with things that I will use later when I write about it. I hope that was useful. Maybe it inspired you to work on your own story or to create something yourself. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!